Okay, so I thank you both for your time today.
Thank you.
Your your documentary was unfortunately way too timely, and and affirmative action in popular culture, as I know it, has always been in reference to the Ivies. However, it forced all educational institutions to create spots for Black people, not take spots away from white people. So, what do you think is going to happen to all these spaces that universities and colleges have been forced to create because of affirmative action now that it's been overturned?
Who wants to start with that one? And first of all, thank you for your time. We appreciate you speaking to us. Yeah, Bill and I planned to make this documentary many years ago so that it would line up precisely with the Students for Fair admission decision. We pulled it off. Bill, you want to go, or do you want me to take that one?
You can start. I got something, but you go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think the assumption is that admissions directors at these, and by the way, I should take a step even further back and say, Bill and I went to Yale, so the story is, the story is close to home. These are our friends, and so we were telling a story that we knew, and so that's why we're focused on an elite institution, which Yale is called, right, in media. I think beyond that, it's also known as a corridor to power. So we wanted to look at Black and brown students at an elite university where that is a direct line to policy, making decisions in this country. We felt like that was new, that not many filmmakers are focused on that. So I'll start with that context first as to why we chose this story, this place, and this cast. We knew them, they were our friends. We thought that they were fascinating. And the idea was not to make a film about affirmative action. It was about making a film about the Black table at Yale, which was a phenomenon where the Black students at Yale would push tables together and they would create this safe space for themselves. And we were interested in understanding why, what was going on at that table, what was being spoken about at that table. And in conversation with those students, all of these other elements come into play. In other words, we're following the story. We are not foisting our opinions about the 90s and what's happening in the 90s. It's cast-led, and this student body is leading the charge. Now, to your specific question, I think admissions directors are going to have to follow guidance from the most recent Supreme Court decision, but they are going to try to figure out ways of fielding a diverse class. I think with affirmative action, the genie is out of the bottle. I don't think you put it back in. I think they will look for ways to, within the boundaries of this most recent decision, to make sure that the numbers don't decline. That's the optimist in me. But that said, I do think that when we get this latest batch of numbers from this most recent entering class, we will see that they do decline. But I don't think it will be for a lack of trying on the part of admissions directors. I think they will look for ways, whether it's in the supplemental essay or other forms of retrieving information from applying students, to figure out how to field a diverse student body, because I think they value it, they think it's important, and they don't want to roll back those gains.
Okay, and I mean, that's certainly optimistic. Like, yeah, the one answer would be like, yeah, the slots are going to be filled by legacies and it's going to go backwards. But I think, especially while we were making this film in the past few years, the campuses are diverse now. And I'm not saying affirmative action isn't useful and wouldn't continue to be useful. Okay, it could be, it should be, but it's not. But I do think that you said the genie's out of the bottle. I think that both in academia and in corporate America, the concept of diversity is quite strong. We've infiltrated. The question is, are we going to be able to maintain those numbers with the strides that we've made? That's the challenge. Are we at the top positions to continue the diversity? I don't know that we are, but optimistically, I think that if anything, slots are going to be filled by, you know, continue to, I mean, the country is more diverse. So if you take what the sampling is and who's getting the high scores, there's enough of every type of person. So hopefully there are enough of us in the decision making process and enough people who empathize with having a diverse population and knowing that that diverse population is going to be better for all people involved than having a monolithic population. As long as that continues, we're going to be okay. I'm not saying it should have ended. I'm just saying that I believe that if we focus, we can continue and not lose ground. Even though forces are going to try, we can. I think we can do this.
Okay, thank you both for your answer. And I'm going to touch on something both of you just said. So the documentary is about this space that they were able to create, this kind of safe space. But as we know, these institutions are not neutral spaces. There's a lot of money and donors involved in terms of shaping the future work culture, the people that are going to enter the workplace. So what do you think will happen to all these spaces that have been created, not just the Black table, but other spaces that other groups have been able to create now that affirmative action has been overturned? Like, how will it change the culture, like the student culture of these places?
Yeah, I mean, I got a call from the African American Cultural Center today, from Yale's African American Cultural Center, and we call it the house, and that was our refuge. And I think that, you know, that was used to be a frat house before it was taken over in the late 60s, early 70s, and been, you know, as a permanent place on Yale's campus. Okay. I think that although the admissions, you know, anti using affirmative action and admissions decision was made, it's we can't no longer can have the affirmative action programs that we used to have. I don't think that the institutions that have been created on campus and diverse curriculums and student organizations are going to disappear. You know, we might have a setback as far as the number of people being admitted, but I don't think that the universities are just going to go extremely right wing and just cut everything. You know, I mean, that might be optimistic, but I do think that many campuses have things similar to the African American Cultural Center, and that's going to continue to thrive. And what did they say? They said, when can we show the film? This is our 55th anniversary coming up in, you know, a year from now, and we'd love to show the film, which is about it's our story, right? This is just one contribution to the, you know, the overall culture. And if people see this film and think about what their college experience is like, the reason why, you know, the traditions continue for everyone who's gone to college, right? It's just that alumni give back and help the next generation come up. So I think that we're just, you know, as people of color, going to need to do the same thing with our own people in order to maintain it. I don't think they can stomp us out just because there's an admissions change. I think we have enough ammunition, and we've infiltrated enough, if you want to call it that, to continue and create our own legacy.
Excellent. Thank you. So just to add on to what you said, one of the points that struck me in the documentary was how, although America is more diverse, it's still just as segregated. Like, it's still, people just still very much are divided by class and race. And so I would say the value of higher education has been questioned in the last few years. Is it worth the price? Especially what we're seeing now on college campuses. And so how important do you think universities and colleges are today in reducing segregation in America?
Wow.
Bringing the tough questions.
Yeah, I had to. Good morning.
Who's hitting that first, Bill? Me or you?
You go for it this time.
I mean, I'll say this. My honest answer to that is when I called Wesley and I wanted to make this film, you know, and he's like, yeah, it's a great idea for film. Let's figure out a way we can do it, right? And the first thing you got to do is you got to call people, right? You got to say, hey, are you around for an interview? And I don't know how many years after graduation, I look at my phone and I don't have a lot of phone numbers of my Black friends from Yale at that moment, right? my kids are going out. I've got a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old now, but they're going out and they're marching in Black Lives Matter. I'm not that kind of guy. I don't go out and march, right? It's never been my thing. I might make a film, but it was kind of sad to see that in my phone, all of those relationships I had in college, and they say it's our filter, right? Our filter is what like these, this is about how our social networks are created. But it was nice to think back to my college years where those relationships were much stronger and they were there. And something happens between the university and life where those relationships begin to disappear, and it's very sad. So I will say that is probably a nod to the university in terms of, you know, and this is something that Wesley says, maybe putting a Black person, and in my case, I'm Puerto Rican, but putting a Black person in a white person's life, right? But the flip side of that, as Wesley Morris says off camera, we didn't use it for the film, he wondered if Yale, when sorting Black students into the dorms, ever kept Black students together, as opposed to putting a Black student in a white person's dorm, because the university felt that a white student needed to have that experience at college, if that makes sense. And his argument was, well, maybe we needed to have other Black students in our dorm rooms because that was a difficult time for us too. So I think it's a very good question, a complicated question that from my perspective, I look back fondly about it. And I think that that was this moment. We constantly call this moment, this 90s moment, and this class Camelot. We always referred to it internally as that. But that's what I would say from my perspective on a personal level. I would answer it personally. I don't know what the statistics are going to say about the disappearance of Black tables at elite colleges, whether or not Black and brown students coming into some of these universities are going to feel at home. They're going to feel like it's a space that is not for them. I don't know the answer to that.
How about yourself? Welcome back. You got cut off for a moment.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I would say it's not really the university's job to sort of govern that, but socially, what John was, mentioning, we were the experiment. Like it was promoted to other, like my three white roommates that their parents got a letter saying that there was going to be some diversity in their room. I don't know whether that was preparing them that there was going to be a Black kid or what, but they were promoting it as this is a good thing. You're going to have a more diverse experience because of the way we're shuffling people in. I don't necessarily like the idea of being used as a guinea pig, and it kind of failed because a couple of my dorm mates later were a group of us who were all the one Black person or Latino person in the room. And we all decided we're going to live together. So, the segregation, you kind of do self-segregate. But I think that, it's not really the university's responsibility. It's more of America's responsibility. And it's going to be as diverse as America. And the microcosm at the university is, at the end of the day, being able to have a Black table and have this place and it be an elephant in the room, it'd be a social statement, but also just a comfortable place to sit and talk and feel at home, I think is a great thing. And I think that the university is a place where you can explore your identity. And this was just one way. And, if people all are able to do that to whatever they are, and they're exposed to other cultures, more power to it. That's what a university should be, and really nothing else. I don't like the trend of universities closing the doors to different opinions. The whole thing is that we're supposed to hear all of them and decide which ones we believe in and pursue that. If we don't hear them, then we're being ignorant. So I think the university does have a great role, but I don't think it's a heavy-handed role. So yeah, I'm optimistic.
All right. Excellent, gentlemen. I thank you for your time today, and I hope you enjoy the festival.